GTFO podcast and video channel. It's Friday.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop. We're all a bit giddy today. I don't know whether there's something in the water at Grow Traffic today because we're all a bit silly sausages, aren't we? But we are here today to talk about Google My Business and Bing Places for Business. So first of all, if you are listening on the podcast, welcome. If you are watching live on Facebook Live on the Facebook page, also welcome. Please feel free to leave a comment, to join in, to tell us, ask us a question, whatever it might be. First of all, Hannah, what's your name? Where'd you come from?
Hello, I'm Hannah. I'm from Grow Traffic.
Marvellous. And Simon Daly, what's your name? Where'd you come from?
Simon Daly from Grow Traffic.
Oh, and I'm Rachel from Grow Traffic, and I've got a wabbit. Where's the wabbit? There's the wickawabbit. He's a nickawabbit. But anyway, that's
do we have to explain to the people that are listening to this on the podcast exactly what you're doing right now?
I just showed everybody the rabbit.
It's
a real life rabbit. Yeah,
She's not just super excited about a sex toy.
No, although I would be. Anyway, we're not here today to talk about Ann Summers' sex toys. We are here to talk about Google My Business and Bing Places for Business. So, when the thing with these things is sometimes a lot of our clients, they just see them as an extra thing. It's just something else that they've got to sort out. Like, why do I need to do it? But actually, these Google My Business card and Bing Places for Business can actually be really fundamental to how well or otherwise your website does. So for example, if you want to get your content out there, they can be really good. They can also be really beneficial if you are trying to improve the kind of authority in your authorship in yourself. But besides that, if you're doing local SEO, you've just got to do them, haven't you? You've got to do them. So first of all, let's go back to basics. Hannah, what is Google My Business, please?
Google My Business is the Google platform that when you search for a business or you search for like dentist near me or whatever, that's what comes up. That's how Google pulls that information onto the kind of knowledge graph.
Map pack.
Pardon?
The map pack.
Map pack. On the on the top
Sorry, I've got my pedant badge on again today.
Oh, super. On the top bit of the Google search engine result page. So it's dead important for your business, which obviously I'll not talk about because I don't want to jump ahead.
Yes, well done. And Simon Daly, what is Bing Places for Business?
Well, it's exactly the same thing, but on Bing.
Okay.
Pretty much, near as damn it.
Just quickly, because a lot of people don't realise that they have got a Bing Places for Business card, do they?
Yeah, no, nobody does. Nobody uses Bing.
No.
It's used by various different little kind of searches.
Alexa uses
products.
Bing.
That's what I was looking for. I was looking for words like voice search things and.
We were looking for words.
Device. I was looking for words like devices. That's the word I was looking for. Devices. It's used by numerous devices who don't plug into Google. So yeah.
And so up until a few years ago, most businesses have heard of Google. They know that they need a place on the Google Maps. They know that they need to have a Google My Business card if they're going to do that. But a lot of people didn't realise that the same thing applied for Bing, and so Bing was just sort of ignored. So Bing started creating these Bing Places for Business cards, and a lot of businesses still don't actually realize that they have one. Bing will take that information from various places. It'll get it from your LinkedIn page, it'll get it from your Google My Business card. But if you have a business, go and find your Bing one and claim it, or go and create it, because it's there. It is just as important as your Google one these days. So a few things that we're going to start. We've got 5 top tips for you on what you need to think about with regard to Google My Business and Bing Places for Business. So the first thing is, if local SEO is your primary concern, you have got to be on these things, haven't you? You cannot ignore them. Why is that?
Dally?
So some businesses are local, some businesses are local businesses, and it would be pointless for them to spend all of their time advertising nationally or optimizing nationally in the same way that you wouldn't take out an ad in a national newspaper. A local business might take out an ad in a local newspaper. You would optimize your activity on a search engine to target your locality. And the map pack offers the best opportunity to do that because it displays results based on a number of different local factors. Some of those include the postcode or the center of a town. So the closer you are, you might appear higher on the map pack there, and obviously that's better because it removes, if somebody say it's a dentist, and somebody types in dentist into Google. Now, just the word dentist, you'll have people all across the country that are competing for the word dentist. However, on the map pack, you'll just get people locally in your surrounding area who are dentists.
And we've all done it, like you kind of search for a service really locally and you click on like the top 3 and they're the ones that you inquire about. So if you're not filling in your business cards on Google and Bing, then, well, particularly Google, then you're not going to appear in that map pack.
And I mean, this is the thing, isn't it, as well? People always think, well, it used to be the case that you would type in, for example, let's use dentist or plumber or whatever, a local service. People would type in plumber near me or dentist near me. And actually, Google now knows where you are, most of the time. So you don't even need to do that. If you are looking for a service that you are actually going to go and visit, a service-based business, it will naturally show you the ones that are closest to you. And so 97% of people looking for a business, a product or a service business nowadays will go onto Google first to look for one, and they will look at those first results that come up on the maps. So if you're not there, you are losing. You're not there. You're losing massive amounts of potential business. So it is really crucial. But yes, especially if you are a local business, you only provide your services in a small geographical area, then maps is where you need to be, because that is where you are going to show up, and that is where you're going to become visible, and local people will find you.
I think as well, even if you are not just a local business, you want to be filling in your Google My Business card, so that you do claim the knowledge graph. So if people search for example, grow traffic, then you can then all your contact details will come up there if you filled in your Google My Business correctly.
Yes. Well, this is actually, so point number 2, I'm just going to, if you are thinking about Google My Business and places, Bing places for business, tip number 1 that you need to remember is if Jesus Christ, we're all as bad as each other today, aren't we? Do we all need coffee? What do we need? Coffee or tequila? What is it?
Tequila.
Right. Tequila. If local SEO is your thing, Bing and Google Places for Business are where you need to be. They are your first priority before you do anything else. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is don't neglect Bing because of its prevalence in terms of the, voice search. It is now the primary one that's used for a lot of voice searches, things like that. But I want to add a sort of a second caveat onto both of these, because it's not only crucial if you're wanting to, be found in voice search and what have you. These are absolutely, the way that the search engine algorithms, particularly Google, has been going over the last few years, is that they are moving towards this one-click strategy, aren't they? Essentially, they want you, if you are the seeker and you're going to put a search query into a search engine, Google, they want you to find the answer to that query in the first click. The first result that they show you gives you the answer that you were intending. So if you are looking for a small business or a local business, a local service-led business, and you go to search and you say, find me a dentist near me, they want that information to be there. They don't want the seeker to have to go and click through onto other websites and search and blah, blah, blah. They need you to be there. And so, again, this is why it is so crucial, because as they move towards this one click, if you haven't put that information, if you're saying, well, I'm going to rely on my website because my phone number's on my website, I'm not filling in this one as well, again, you're just not going to be there in that one click. People are going to get used to using search engines in that way. They will not even come through to your website. So it's really vital, isn't it, that people get the message that they need to be on there.
I think as well, like, and forgive me if this is a point, but don't just be on there, update it. Like, how many times do you see there's out of date contact details on Google, or out of date opening hours and stuff? So, you know, it needs to be, it is your primary way of communicating with a large chunk of your audience.
Thank you, Hannah, for doing a dally. We are coming on to that point in a minute. So, right.
Sorry.
So, if you are, you know, what do you need to think about with Google My Business and Bing Places for Business? Tip number one, if local SEO is your priority, make sure you are on there. Tip number two, do not neglect Bing, because it is there for, you know, it didn't used to matter all that much, but now with voice search and everything else, you've got to be on there. Do not forget it. Go and claim your card or create one if you haven't got one. Tip number three, fill in all the information that is asked for. If they've put a box there that asks you for information, they have put it there for a reason. So fill it all in. Hannah, a couple of other tips that we need to think about with these. What are they?
Make sure that it's all accurate and up to date.
Yeah.
And if you've got anything special, the bank holiday opening times, or you're on reduced hours because of Corona, or you've got
no, you're jumping ahead again. No, you are getting this test all wrong. It's not, honestly, it's like we don't plan this shit. Jesus Christ. Right. Number one, fill in all your information. Number two, yes, make sure all of the relevant information is in there and up to date. Number three, does it matter if you put all of your information in differently?
No, you have to keep all your information in exactly the same, absolutely exactly the same. Your address, your phone number. An example of this is when Grow Traffic got a landline, we changed our phone number on the website and we didn't change it across the internet, and we lost the knowledge graph because the inaccurate information or the clashing information could have suggested to Google that it was just a little touch of spam going on. So we lost, if you searched for Grow Traffic, we didn't come up in the knowledge panel. So make sure that all the information is absolutely perfect.
And as well, it's like how you write your name. So we write it Grow Traffic, capital G, capital T, no space. If there were other businesses that would Grow Traffic with a space or Grow Traffic with a small t, and we've got all of these different listings everywhere, Google doesn't know whether those are multiple businesses or the same business. Also, if you've got an address, don't write it, unit 21, comma, industrial estate, comma, town one way, and then have it unit 23 industrial estate town another way, because again, Google doesn't know. These are algorithms we're dealing with. They can't use their best guess judgment. If they've got two different versions of a name or two different versions of an address, they are going to assume that those are two different businesses. So make sure you are absolutely getting it spot on.
The other thing as well that you see is people put on the limited and leave off the limited in some things. So we always say we're Grow Traffic, but we're officially Grow Traffic Limited. But make a decision, which one are you going to use, and stick with
absolutely. Yeah, Dali, anything you want to say about getting the information correct, and anything else that people need to think about? Keywords, linking to their website, all the rest of it.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
You can hear me now. I've just played around with my microphone settings because I think it was feeding back a little bit. Is it still feeding back?
No, it sounds better.
Better? Good.
Better.
So what would I say? And I'm conscious I'm probably going to jump ahead, so apologies about that. Or I might even go back to a previous question. Who knows? So
don't talk about posts or updating your photos. That's it. That's the only thing we've got left to come.
Oh, good. Right. Okay. So I won't talk about that. So yeah, make sure that you've got all of your details consistent across every kind of locally focused kind of like directory or information website, or however you kind of distribute your content, because Google local especially is looking for local references to you. So you think about the places that you're referenced locally, and also that your suppliers might reference you, and make sure that everybody's doing it the same. And if a supplier or another business out there has a reference to you and it's different, go in and ask them to change it and update it, because it can confuse Google. It's nowhere near as bad as it used to be. It used to be really, really horrendous. It used to be every few months you used to lose control of your it was Google Maps then, lose control of your business's profile on Google Maps, and you had to reclaim it, and you had to get a card sent through the post and all that type of stuff. And it's much better now. But the other thing is that make sure that you're getting all your services in there. So there's an option in Google My Business, for example, to list out all your different services. So you have your services with your keywords in, but each of them, if you expand them out, has a description area where you can put hundreds of words against each of those services. And within those, don't forget to put things like keywords, like location-based keywords as well. Make sure that all those...
Another question, Dali, people always ask us is about the locality bit. So it asks you, what area do you service? And people always say, like, oh, well, let me put Lancashire in, or well, let me put North of England or whatever. It literally does want you to list town by town, doesn't it?
Yeah, so you can put the UK, you can put multiple countries in there as well. It does help. The other thing to bear in mind is that we're talking at the moment, or we're thinking really about a small business that just has one location. But with Google My Business, especially, you can create multiple accounts and link them together, and it's important to do that so that you don't end up with two business listings competing with the other and knocking one out that is potentially ranks really well in one location, and then creating another one for another location and losing all your rankings.
Yeah, we just had this for a business that I helped them out with. So they had a Google My Business listing at one address, which was their address, where their office was. And then during COVID, they moved to a different address. They moved back to their home office, essentially, and mistakenly set up a new Google My Business listing. Now, what they had essentially done there is created a duplicate listing rather than changing the address on the first one. But they were then no longer operating. They decided not to go back to that original address. So what we had to do was delete the duplicate listing. And Google, to be fair to them, if you contact them, they're quite good at this. And within the space of a week, they had sorted out which one was a duplicate, migrated over, because there were reviews and things on both listings. So they had migrated the reviews onto the other one and sorted it out so that we only had one listing. So if you have one business at one location, you need one listing. But if you do have multiple businesses, multiple locations rather, so say if you're a franchise, if you're Starbucks and you've got multiple Starbucks locations, each one of those needs its own maps. You don't just have one central Starbucks listing, you have one for every location. So then it's a legitimate reason to create those duplicate ones. So think about how your business is set up and make sure your maps reflects that accurately, the outline of your business.
Yeah, but don't just create new accounts. Don't just create new profiles for every location. You've got to link them up together.
That's right.
Otherwise,
yes. Yeah, you have.
That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, you have one Google My Business account. So you log in using your business's email address and login details, and then you create a new location. You don't create a brand new Google My Business listing. Yeah, that's really important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Let's move on.
Actually,
time is marching on.
One other thing
yeah, go on.
Sorry, Rachel. One other thing.
All right, go on.
Just on that as well. And this is something that I've messed up a couple of times over the years, that if you have multiple businesses, so not necessarily multiple locations, but if you're the owner of multiple businesses, or like us, you work with businesses and help them with their Google My Business account, Google My Business isn't as good as some of the other Google platforms in letting multiple different businesses work in the same account. So I'd always suggest putting the other businesses in a separate account. And I've an example of where it's gone wrong is sometimes the feed from Google My Business can appear in Google AdWords, and it can just pick a random one. and you can end up with, like, I think
Yeah.
once I accidentally had the address of a dentist that I previously worked with coming out on a Grow Traffic ad, for example.
Yeah, it has got better at that in recent years, hasn't it? But we've had multiple times where suddenly it will pick up a business that you've worked with. I had it not that long ago where it was somebody who I'd done a tiny bit of work with about 3 years ago, and all of a sudden it was showing them in my Google My Business list in my account. So yeah, it will randomly pick up things, although it is getting better. I do just want to return very quickly before I move on to one thing you said before, Dali, when you were talking about making sure your listings are correct across multiple things. So we call that citations, but it's basically local listings. So if you are listed on anything else, and also, you know, LinkedIn, Twitter, all of that, make sure all of that information is up to date, because whilst Google and Bing take the primary source of their information from what you give them, the information you give them in your account, they will also verify that against other information on the website. That's why it's so important to make sure it's all correct and all the same, because if you have conflicting information, they will then say, oh, we're not sure about this, it looks a bit dodgy, you know, we're not gonna have it as a verified business. So think about that. Right, so anyway, Google My Business, Bing Places for Business. Tip number one, if local SEO is your priority, if you are looking for people in your local area, these are the things you need to focus on. Number two, do not neglect Bing. It's really, really important these days. So make sure, if you don't have and you don't know about your Bing listing, go on there. You've probably got one. You need to claim it. Number three, fill in all the information that it asks for, and make sure all of that information is correct and the same. And make sure also basic things like people don't put their link to their website in there. Put your link to your website in there. It's really simple. Number four, update it regularly and use posts. So Dali, what are posts?
Posts on Google My Business, it's an opportunity to push out some news, maybe an offer. The little cards that you can fill in. You can put events on there. There's a selection of a number of different things that you can use them for, and they all have an image, they all have a bit of description, they all have a link out to a page on your website. And then if you were to type in your brand term and you get the description of your business at the right hand side, then under that you'll see the post being pulled through. They need updating though regularly, because if you do them once and then forget to do them for ages, that old post just remains there. They're just another opportunity to get some more location-based keywords in, and to drive people back to your website and to specific pages on your website from Google.
Hannah?
Yeah, it's essentially Google's stab at, well, it was Google's stab at a social media platform, which they kind of retired because they realized no one was using it, but they still want people to use it. So it is just, like Dali said, just a good opportunity to get your keywords out there and get some more content out there.
The other thing that we need to remember about this is that as much as, if you have a business and your business is fairly static, you do not have much of a reason to go in there. You know, your address might not change, your email might not change, your phone number might not change. You know, you don't necessarily have a legitimate reason to keep going in and updating. And yet, if you haven't touched your Google My Business listing for a year, 2 years, 3 years, how does Google know that your business is still in operation? So posts is one of those things that they've brought in to kind of help them understand that you are still operating. So there's different ones. As Dali said, you can have an event, you can have a special offer, you can have an announcement, you know, there's different formats, and which one you choose will depend on how it displays that information. But it's basically a way of updating it, you know, so at least 3-4 times a year, go in there, put a post on. If you're, you know, at Christmas, if you've got an announcement about your Christmas opening hours might be changing, your Easter opening hours, if you've got special offers on for Valentine's Day or whatever, or if you've just got a general announcement that you can make, you've got a new product or service, you've won a new qualification, you've got a new client, whatever it might be, use posts in that way to make sure you are keeping that information about your business up to date and you're sending all those signals. You can also use it if you're publishing content to your website and you want to get that a bigger reach out. So you post that content then to your social media, but you can also do a little mini announcement on your posts and say, oh, there's a new blog post on my website, go over and have a read of it. So, serves multiple purposes, but again, it's really, really important that you use that to keep things up to date. Okay, moving on. Tips on Google My Business and Bing Places for Business. Number one, if you are looking for local customers, these should be your priorities. Number two, do not neglect Bing, really important. Number three, if they ask you for some information, fill in the information and make sure there's links back to your website and everything else. Number four, update that profile regularly, mainly by posts if you possibly can. But number five, keep reviewing that Google My Business listing and your Bing Places for Business listing. If you cannot put a post up, you still need to be updating that information in some way. So what else can you do? Does your information, your basic contact information, need updating? Can you add some photos in there? Is there something else that you can do to keep that profile up to date? Dali, just in terms of sort of photos and using that as a means of improving authorship, how can that help? There's a bit of a link there, isn't there?
Improving authorship.
Well, sorry, what I mean is, so if you are putting up photos of yourself or your business or whatever, make sure they're tagged. Make sure you've got your meta description and your tags and stuff in there.
So
no, you've got no idea what I'm on about, have you?
let's just talk authorship for a second. So I think if we take a step back and say, not say authorship, but say publisher. So originally, Google used to have a meta tag that you add to your website for publisher, and it kind of gave Google a sense of who you were on the internet. You linked it to your Google Plus account, which, as Hannah was saying earlier, has now been retired. But Google doesn't need that anymore. However, your Google My Business listing is one of the central things that it uses to understand that your website is a publisher and what it's about, and so that's kind of authorship, I suppose, in the sense of how a business would consider authorship, or a website rather than a person would consider authorship. In terms of images, there's loads of opportunities with images to really optimize for a specific location. So when you take a picture, there's loads of meta information that's stored with an image. There's loads of data in the background. Often you'll find things like the camera that it's taken with, or the quality of the image, things like that. But in addition to that, you often find location information. So you might find specific longitude and latitude kind of information in there, and you can start to do some interesting things from an optimization perspective. I mean, ideally, you're not gaming the system. You take a photograph outside your building or your premises, or in the location that you're based, and that will feed some information to Google to help them rank you in a different way based on the location of your photos. However, if you want to play with that system a little bit, then you might go in and actively update some of that metadata to position you in the center of the location that you're trying to rank for.
Yeah, absolutely. Hannah, you muted.
Your internet's appalling. I feel like I'm watching you both on a potato. Like, it's just.
I'm sorry, I am
like
plugged
fuzzy
in.
human shapes.
Yeah.
What's the sound like?
Yeah.
That's all right.
I have plugged into the main thing, but it is appalling at the moment. Apparently, there is a fault on our line. They've finally admitted that there is a fault on our line. Yeah. Anyway, it's taken us a long time. We're not here to talk about our internet woes. I just want to say, so Kareem is watching. He's asked a question. So he's saying, as a US consumer, he doesn't quite understand what we're talking about. And he's mentioned about the ads at the top of Google. I've never seen a search engine results page from America, obviously. But no, it's not. There are ads at the top, and I think they've recently increased those. I've started seeing a lot more ads on the SERPs recently. I don't know whether you two have seen that as well. But what we're talking about is the business card. So when you search for a specific business, it's the card that comes on the right hand side of the search engine results page. It's the bit that says basically the name, the phone number, and you can then link through to their websites. That's what we see in the UK. I have no idea whether or not that's what you see in the US. I know that there are some differences because from some of the SEO groups that we're in, they talk about various differences. They can have tags, for example, in the US that say whether or not this is a veteran-owned business or a LGBT supporting business or whatever, and we don't have that in the UK. So I do know there are differences, so apologies. Liz has asked a question as well. Hi, Liz. She said, how does Google Local Guides tie in with Google My Business? Dali, do you want to take that one? No. Yeah. Oh, we're doing so well.
I was just trying to find the mute button. Oh, he's found it.
There he is.
I'm unmuted. Am I working? Because I seem to be. I can see what Hannah was. I'm really slow when I look at myself.
Yeah, go for it.
So Google local guides are related to Google Maps, where you can go in and add information and images about what's happening and things that are in that local area. Google My Business is a part of Google Maps, basically. So essentially anything that's a part of it's part of that general ecosystem. Yes.
And I think as well, the important thing to remember about things like that is this is all moving towards that aspect of user-generated content. So basically what they're trying to encourage is that if somebody comes to your business, this is particularly important if you are a tourist business or a restaurant, perhaps even a clothing business, whatever. If somebody is attending you, you want them to be saying, tagging, checking in, saying, I've come here. Google will then say, oh, have you got a photo? Would you like to write a review? What do you think of it? Is the information correct that's in there? And it's all this thing of your business being verified by multiple people. The more different people you can get to say, yes, this is a business. Yes, it's here. Yes, it's all right. Here's a photo. This is where we came to it. Yes, the opening hours are correct. The better you will be ranked, the more authority you will have, the more you will show in those map results. So, if you are a business, that particularly relies on things like that, see if there is a way that you can encourage people who are coming to your business to do that. Ask them to take a photo and post it. Ask them to write a review, because it genuinely will help you as much as anything else. That's it. We are running out of time. I'm going to recap and then we have final thoughts, please, from you two. So local business, Google My Business and Bing Places for Business. Top 5 tips. Number 1, if you want more customers from the local area, these are the main things that will get you them. So local SEO, focus on Google My Business and Bing Places for Business first. Number 2, do not neglect Bing. It is really, really important. Find your listing, claim it. If you haven't got one, create it, update it just as much as all the others. Number 3, if they ask you for information, fill out the information box. Make sure all the basic information is there. Your keywords are there, your service area, the services you provide, link to your website. They ask you for a reason. Number 4, use posts. Utilize these as a way of updating the content on your listings pages. And just to prove, if nothing else, that you are still in business, and link it back to your website if you can. And number 5, review and update regularly. And that could be multiple ways. That could be updating with images. If you can't update your basic contact information, then just add more stuff on there. Ask your customers to review you. Ask your customers to update photos as much as you can, as often as you can. Right, that is it. Hannah Winehouse, famous last words.
Famous last words are make it consistent.
Simon Daly, famous last words.
I'll just unmute.
Yeah, good idea.
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
No,
good.
those
Good
weren't
work.
Okay,
my
well,
famous last words. I just
there we
thought
go.
how
With
good would it be if my last words were, "I'll just unmute."
I'll just unmute. There we go. Right.
But,
So there we go. From
but
Simon
no,
Daly, SEO
I will,
expert. Go on,
I
quick.
will add something. Just the other thing just put loads of information in there. Put as much information as you can fill in. Too many people don't use all the functionality that's available in there. So to do that, put regular videos in, put regular images in, update your images, take the images locally if possible, because it should help. Set your phone up to include some of the metadata in there if possible, and you can do some interesting things like link out to your website, or even try and build some links to your Google My Business page to see if that helps.
Yeah,
Cool.
brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you so much to all of you who have watched, everybody who has commented on the Facebook Live group. Katie Wakeling, hi. Yes, you absolutely can watch this again. It will be available on the Facebook page in perpetuity. And if you are watching back afterwards, please do still leave us a comment, ask us a question, because we will get back to you, unless you are contacting us about your child in Germany that is being arrested or something, in which case we can, I'm afraid, delete and block you. So if you are listening to this on the podcast, thank you. Please rate and review and subscribe and tell your friends. All of that helps. And same if you are watching back on YouTube, please leave us a review and subscribe and share it with your friends. It all genuinely helps us. We also welcome constructive criticism. So if you have a comment on how we can get better, or a subject you would like us to talk about in the future, please do tell us. That is it. It's Friday afternoon. We've all had enough. We're going to be silly. Thank you very much, everybody. We will speak to you soon.
I'm about to go.
Bye.
Big grains.
Bye.
Bye.